Everybody wants to look strong when the lights are on. Everybody wants to sound confident when people are watching. But strength isn't proven in applause, it's proven in pressure. The year ahead is not interested in your words, your posts, or your promises. It's coming to test what you do when nobody's clapping, when the room is quiet, when quitting feels reasonable and excuses sound intelligent. This is the kind of year that doesn't argue with you. It simply applies weight and waits to see what bends and what breaks. You see, pretending is easy when life is comfortable. You can call yourself tough when the road is smooth, when money is steady, when support is guaranteed. But when expectations rise and patience is stretched thin, when responsibility gets heavy and results take longer than planned, that's when the truth shows up. Some people will discover that what they called strength was just convenience, and what they called discipline was just routine that never got challenged. This year doesn't care how long you've been talking about change. It doesn't care how talented you think you are or how much potential people say you have. It's going to ask one simple question every single day. Can you show up without applause, without certainty, without comfort? Because real strength doesn't announce itself. It moves quietly. It keeps going when motivation is gone. It stays standing when confidence is shaking. A lot of people are about to get uncomfortable, not because they're weak, but because they've been avoiding the work that builds strength. And avoidance always sends the bill later. The weight you didn't lift, the discipline you postponed, the fear you negotiated with, it all comes back asking for payment. This year is that moment. Not to punish you, but to reveal you. And here's the part most people miss. Exposure isn't a curse, it's a gift. Because once the pretending falls apart, what's left is real. Real effort, real growth, real endurance. You stop performing and start becoming. You stop explaining and start executing. That's when life begins to respond differently to you. So, don't be afraid of what this year will expose. Be afraid of going another year hiding from who you could have been. Because when the pressure rises and the masks fall, the ones who remain standing won't be the loudest or the flashiest. They'll be the ones who quietly decided a long time ago that they were willing to do the work, even when it hurt, even when it was lonely, even when no one was watching. Most people believe character is something you display when life is smoothed, when everything is working in your favor and the pressure is low. In those moments, almost anyone can appear confident, disciplined, and resilient. Comfort allows people to rehearse a polished version of themselves, one that has never been challenged. But comfort doesn't test who you are. It protects you from being exposed. Pressure does the opposite. It removes the safety net and forces the truth to surface. It doesn't create new traits inside you. It reveals the ones you've been training all along. When pressure arrives, it shows up uninvited. It comes as responsibility you didn't expect, setbacks you didn't plan for, delays that test your patience, or losses that shake your confidence. In those moments, you don't suddenly become someone new. You respond according to your habits, your mindset, and your preparation. If you've practiced discipline, you lean into structure. If you've practiced avoidance, you look for escape. If you've practiced accountability, you adjust and move forward. Pressure exposes what you rely on when there's no time to think and no space to perform. That's why pressure feels so uncomfortable. It forces honesty. You can't hide behind motivation when you're exhausted. You can't hide behind potential when results are required. You can't hide behind words when action is demanded. Pressure reveals whether your values are real or just convenient ideas you carry when life is easy. It shows whether your strength is internal or borrowed from circumstances. Many people misunderstand this and see pressure as punishment. They ask why things are getting harder, why the load is heavier, why the expectations are higher. But pressure isn't there to break you. It's there to show you where you stand. It highlights the gaps between who you think you are and who you've actually trained yourself to be. Without pressure, those gaps stay hidden. With pressure, they become impossible to ignore. The people who grow are not the ones who avoid pressure, but the ones who learn from it. They don't waste energy pretending they're unshaken. They observe their reactions. They strengthen their weak points. They build what pressure exposes as missing. Over time, what once felt overwhelming becomes manageable, not because the pressure disappears, but because the person has changed underneath it. Fake strength looks convincing when life offers no resistance, when routines are predictable and outcomes feel guaranteed. It's easy to believe you're tough, disciplined, and resilient. Comfort allows people to carry confidence without cost. You can speak boldly, plan endlessly, and promise change without ever being challenged. But the moment resistance appears, fake strength begins to weaken. It searches for explanations, distractions, or someone else to blame because it was never trained to withstand pressure. Resistance changes the rules. It introduces discomfort, delay, and uncertainty. It demands effort when motivation is gone and patience when results don't come quickly. Fake strength struggles here because it was built on ease, not endurance. It expects progress to feel good and growth to be smooth. When things become uncomfortable, it assumes something is wrong and looks for an exit. Real strength understands that resistance is not a signal to stop, but a signal to adapt. Real strength doesn't announce itself. It doesn't need to be seen or celebrated. It's built quietly through repetition and persistence. While fake strength performs, real strength prepares. It trains for weight it hasn't yet felt. It builds habits that function even when confidence is low. Resistance doesn't intimidate real strength because resistance is familiar territory. It's been there before, doing the work when no one was watching. One of the biggest differences appears in how each responds to pain. Fake strength avoids pain and interprets it as failure. Real strength listens to pain without being controlled by it. It adjusts, learns, and continues. It knows that discomfort is part of growth and that avoiding it only delays progress. Resistance becomes a teacher rather than an enemy. When challenges last longer than expected, fake strength begins to collapse. It depends on quick wins and external validation to stay alive. Real strength is patient. It understands that lasting results take time and that progress is often invisible before it becomes obvious. It stays consistent even when there's no immediate reward. In the end, resistance exposes the truth. Those who relied on comfort are revealed, not to be embarrassed, but to be awakened. Those who embraced resistance are strengthened by it. Fake strength fades when things get hard, but real strength is sharpened by difficulty and continues forward long after comfort has disappeared. Confidence feels powerful because it convinces you that you're ready, that you can handle whatever comes next. When life is light, confidence speaks loudly and moves quickly. It tells you everything will work out, and that belief alone is enough. But when pressure increases and responsibility gets heavier, confidence without discipline begins to shake. Confidence depends on feeling good. Discipline depends on commitment, and commitment doesn't disappear when emotions change. Discipline is what carries you when confidence runs out. It's the structure you fall back on when motivation is gone and doubt creeps in. While confidence waits for certainty, discipline acts in uncertainty. It doesn't need assurance that things will work out. It only needs a decision to keep going. That decision, repeated daily, becomes strength. When life gets heavy, routines matter more than inspiration. Discipline turns chaos into manageable steps. It gives you something solid to stand on when everything else feels unstable. Confidence might tell you that you can handle the weight, but discipline shows you how. It teaches you how to pace yourself, how to adjust when things don't go as planned, and how to keep moving forward without burning out. Confidence often focuses on the outcome. Discipline focuses on the process. When results are slow, confidence gets frustrated. It starts questioning worth and ability. Discipline stays calm. It understands that progress is rarely immediate and that consistency beats intensity over time. It doesn't panic when things feel heavy because it was built for repetition, not excitement. Discipline also protects you from quitting too soon. When confidence is high, quitting feels impossible. But when confidence drops, quitting starts to sound reasonable. Discipline removes that debate. It doesn't ask whether you feel like continuing. It simply continues, not blindly, but intentionally. It knows when to rest and when to push, and it respects long-term growth over short-term relief. As responsibilities increase, excuses become louder. Confidence tries to argue its way through difficulty. Discipline works its way through it. One relies on belief, the other relies on behavior. And when everything feels heavy, behavior always wins. The people who endure are not the ones who felt the most confident at the start, but the ones who built systems strong enough to carry them when belief alone was no longer enough. Motivation is exciting because it creates a surge of energy that makes everything feel possible. In those moments, starting feels easy and commitment feels natural, but motivation is temporary. It rises with emotion and fades with fatigue. When life becomes repetitive or difficult, motivation is often the first thing to disappear. Quiet consistency doesn't depend on emotion. It relies on decisions made long before excitement fades. Loud motivation likes attention. It thrives on big announcements, bold promises, and dramatic beginnings. It makes change feel urgent and impressive. But urgency doesn't guarantee follow through. Many people start strong and stop quietly. Quiet consistency doesn't announce itself. It shows up on ordinary days, in small actions that don't look powerful, but slowly build strength. It understands that progress is not made in bursts, but in repetition. Consistency builds trust with yourself. Each time you follow through, even when it's uncomfortable, you reinforce your identity. You stop relying on external encouragement because your actions become proof. Loud motivation needs validation to survive. Quiet consistency needs standards. One reacts to feelings, the other acts on principle. When challenges appear, motivation tries to negotiate. It looks for reasons to pause or wait for a better moment. Consistency removes negotiation. It turns action into habit. Habits don't require enthusiasm. They only require commitment. Over time, those habits create momentum that motivation alone could never sustain. Quiet consistency also protects you from burnout. Loud motivation pushes extremes. It encourages you to do everything at once, often ignoring limits. Consistency respects pacing. It understands that lasting growth requires balance. It allows you to move forward without exhausting yourself. Progress made steadily survives pressure better than progress made emotionally. There is strength in moving quietly. Without the need to perform, you can focus on improvement instead of appearance. You're free to learn without judgment and to fail without fear of being exposed. Quiet consistency gives you the space to develop depth. While others chase recognition, you build capacity. While others restart repeatedly, you keep moving forward. Over time, quiet consistency creates results that don't fade when excitement is gone. These results are stable because they were built slowly. They don't collapse under pressure because they were tested through repetition. In a world drawn to noise, the ones who last are not the loudest, but the ones who kept showing up long after motivation stopped making noise. Performance is built for moments when people are watching. It focuses on image, approval, and the appearance of control. When an audience is present, it's easy to act confident, disciplined, and committed. Performance feeds on reaction. It needs acknowledgement to feel real. Truth doesn't need witnesses. It lives in private choices, in routines no one applauds, and in decisions made when no reward is guaranteed. A season that rewards truth removes the value of pretending. Image alone can't carry responsibility for long. Promises without follow through lose credibility. Talent without discipline becomes unreliable. Truth demands alignment between words and actions. It forces you to confront the distance between who you present yourself as and who you actually are. That confrontation can be uncomfortable, but it's necessary for real growth. Performance asks how something looks. Truth asks whether it's real. Performance can be maintained temporarily, but it requires constant energy and validation. Truth simplifies life. When you stop performing, you stop managing impressions, you stop explaining yourself, you focus on doing the work. That shift creates clarity and focus, freeing energy that was previously spent on appearances. Truth also changes how you handle weakness. Performance hides flaws to protect image. Truth acknowledges them to create improvement. When weakness is admitted honestly, it becomes a starting point rather than a source of shame. Growth accelerates when denial ends. Truth gives you permission to rebuild without pretending you never struggled. When truth becomes the standard, excuses lose power. You can no longer blame circumstances for habits you refuse to change. You can no longer blame timing for lack of preparation. Truth places responsibility back in your hands. That responsibility is not a burden, it's authority. It gives you control over your actions and your progress. A year that rewards truth favors those who are willing to be honest with themselves, even when it's uncomfortable. These individuals don't waste energy defending an image. They invest in discipline, alignment, and consistency. They don't fear being exposed because they're no longer hiding. Performance eventually collapses under pressure. Truth builds endurance. And endurance creates results that last because they were earned through honest effort, repeated action, and a commitment to reality rather than appearance.